Women in Print Alliance is dedicated to connecting, empowering, and advancing women in the printing industry. As part of Printing United Alliance, we're fostering a more inclusive future through advocacy, education, and networking opportunities that connect women across the entire industry. Join us as an individual to grow your career, expand your network, and access exclusive resources, or enroll your entire organization to show your commitment to supporting women in print. Become a member today at womeninprintalliance.org and help us shape the future of print.
Welcome to Her Imprint, part of the Impressions Exchange. I'm Denise Gustafson, your host. This podcast celebrates the remarkable women who are transforming the printing industry. We'll explore their journeys, from challenges to triumphs, and share the stories that leave a lasting imprint. Today I have with me Marie Clarke. She's CEO and president for the Envelope Manufacturing Association. So Marie, welcome.
Thank you, Denise. I'm so excited to be here.
It's so exciting to have you here and to chat a little bit about your journey and to see where we are in the envelope side of the business. So to get us started, can you tell me a little bit about the EMA, or the Envelope Manufacturing Association?
Absolutely. EMA is a trade association based in Washington, D.C. So we advocate on behalf of our members who are envelope manufacturers, obviously, suppliers to the industry. So paper companies, the adhesive, the ink, and some of the other embellishment and detail that can be added to envelopes these days. And we also really speak on behalf of the mail. So our partners in the industry across the ecosystem. It's a very large industry, which I think is often underappreciated. We also have the EMA Foundation for Paper-Based Communication. So we produce research and we educate about the industry. So the size of the industry being 7.9 million American jobs, a nearly $2 trillion industry. Big numbers that get a lot of attention. And then we try to drill down into what decision makers here in Washington or across the country might care most about, which might be their district. So there are jobs and economic impact across every congressional district, across every state, and really every community, because we care a lot about mail and the postal service, an affordable, reliable postal service. Post offices are available in every community. Your letter carrier comes to your door 6 days a week, which is incredible, that infrastructure. So we talk a lot about the value of mail and then the ability for consumers, for Americans to be able to choose paper. So when it's their sensitive financial information, their health information, that the choice exists so that they get to be able to, if they want to participate exclusively digitally, that they can do that always. But if they want to get some of that and be a more informed consumer, or it's a necessity for access, that they have the availability to receive that information in paper. So I spend a lot of my time on Capitol Hill and with the Postal Service and with our partners across the country, raising awareness, answering questions, educating, sometimes young staffers on the Hill who may not have as much familiarity with the Postal Service, having grown up with a phone and online much more than I did and some of my peers, but just being able to tell the good story of the value of print, the value of mail. It connects people, it connects the country. So it's just a really great story to be able to make personal when you're having a conversation with someone, because everyone has that connection.
Honestly, I think a lot of people just take it for granted. Like you said, the mail comes 6 days a week. There's a mail carrier at our door, leaving our mail or packages or whatever it is. But it's just been such a piece of the fabric of our lives that a lot of people take that for granted, of what's available to us.
I did. I certainly did. So as someone who I've been in this role almost 3 years, before that, I was with different manufacturing industries representing the paint and coatings industry and the mattress industry. So other industries that maybe don't get their due in terms of attention, but having come from different industries, I appreciate manufacturing. I appreciate makers a lot and the work that goes into producing a product. What I didn't appreciate was the value of the Postal Service, the network that it, 167 million addresses 6 days a week delivers to is unrivaled really anywhere in the world. So to be able to take that in, appreciate it as someone who previously didn't, and then help educate others, I think is very helpful. We have taken it for granted for our whole history, really, 250 years. The Postal Service turned 250 last year. America obviously turns 250 this year. So it was integral to the founding of our democracy. We communicated letters, ideas, we disseminated information through the post to overthrow the Brits, become an independent United States of America. There's so much history, but I think helping folks understand how it is part of the modern economy is the really exciting piece, because I think that's what we really overlook every day because we're so digitally integrated. But to be able to give examples of either communities or people that may rely heavily on the mail, veterans for medications or senior citizens who aren't comfortable conducting all of their affairs online, or rural communities that don't have reliable broadband access. It helps, I think, all of us appreciate not just what the Postal Service does for us, but what it does for all of us, for our entire country, and that it does bind the country, which in a day and age when it feels very divided and like we fight about a lot of things, this is one thing that I think is very bipartisan. Republicans and Democrats want it to work. They have different ideas on how or exactly who it needs to serve in which ways, but they really, I think, see the value when you have a conversation with them. So that's encouraging because there's obviously a lot of issues on the agenda every day in Washington. So to talk about postal is sometimes a challenge, but often it's something that everybody gets, everybody understands. So you don't have to explain a very technical chemical process or a very maybe controversial policy issue. It's the post office. It's part of who we are, like you said.
Yeah, everybody's gotten cards for a special day, or they've gotten catalogs, or they get what we quote as junk mail or direct mail from companies that we've done business with. It is such a part of our lives. We're so used to getting that. And then, in a way, you bridge the print side too, because as much as mail and mail delivery is taken for granted, in some ways, print is as well. People don't understand the huge industry that is behind the pieces to get creative before it even hits the mail stream.
Yeah, we've all heard print is dead. We've heard it on the mail side too. Mail is dead. Mail is going away. It obviously isn't, and folks in the industry know that, but it's our obligation to help others understand it as well. We're in a digital world, but the two work so well together because a lot of folks who maybe had a Kindle, myself included, or an e-reader, have gone back to books. I liked the ability to carry a smaller device around, but I retain information so much better when I read on paper. And I see the same thing for my children, and that a lot of schools are going back to books, paper books. So I think the pendulum may have swung. Digital is great. Our devices keep us somewhat connected, but I think COVID taught us in person is so important. We are humans. We need to connect. We need to be with other humans. We really value that in person. And I think the next best thing is to be able to hold something in your hand, touch something like a greeting card, a really well done direct mail piece that is something you want to receive and speaks to you because you feel almost chosen, or they've used all this data that they've aggregated from your online shopping or your internet profiles to be able to really tailor what you want. So yeah, we push back very hard against junk mail or garbage because it's very expensive. A lot of thought goes into it. So just helping people understand the creative piece, the production and manufacturing piece, and then the logistics piece, that's expensive. So if they're making an investment in that mail piece, it's because they want you to get this thing. They want you to be a customer for life, or they want to be able to give you an offer that they think is very relevant to you. So I feel like as soon as you help people connect those dots, the light bulb goes off. Print is not dead. I like reading paper books, or I like a catalog, or I like being able to see pictures in person. Or a friend of ours just printed out pictures. I have a ton of pictures on my phone, but when I see them in print, it's almost nostalgic because it's like I get to hold, and it's an even more cherished memory to me. So I think people have come to appreciate that maybe in different seasons of your life, the power of print. I certainly appreciate it now post-COVID more than I did maybe pre-2020. But I think that print is also what's old is new again. For kids who grew up with all devices, they're trying to turn them off. Some, I think they still want to stay connected, but I think they realized social media isn't as much of a connection as maybe seeing someone in person or connecting over a book at a book club. So just being able to help folks see there's room for all of this. And we don't need to demonize digital, but we do want the value of print and mail and the connectivity that it offers. And that, like I said, is our obligation as participants and believers in this industry.
Yeah, now you mentioned that you spend a lot of time on Capitol Hill because you're down in Washington, and you recently were at the Keep Us Posted event as well. What was that like? Because that's something that has been going on for a couple years now.
Yes, this is our 4th year. So for those who don't know, Keep Us Posted is a coalition and really a grassroots effort to help connect Americans, really consumers, to their elected officials and talk about the value of mail. So they run a bunch of campaigns about when there is a piece of legislation or when there is something to weigh in on, like a rulemaking at the Postal Regulatory Commission, to activate that grassroots network to say, we care about mail, so you should pass this bill or you should consider this rulemaking. And so that's the point of Keep Us Posted. But our event was a wonderful 4th annual Mother's Day greeting card event. So we have a lot of the creators, the folks that make the greeting cards, donate their cards, and some of them come to the Hill. We put them on display in a foyer in one of the House office buildings, and we invite all the staff and members of Congress to come and send a free card to their mother. And we have a mailbox and stamps, and we even have a little booth to teach some of the young staffers on the Hill, some of them are in their early 20s, how to address an envelope, where you put the stamp, where you put the address and the return address, because a lot of them didn't know. And the first time we did it, we didn't know that they didn't know. So we were able to help educate and raise awareness that postal network that is as large as it is and spans the whole country, maybe they took for granted too. And to be able to help them connect the dots again, but also have a really impactful and hopefully meaningful moment with a mother or a mother figure when you could send a text, you could make a phone call. Maybe you'll see them in person, which is great, but to write a few thoughtful words on a beautiful card and send it to them and for the mother to receive it, I hope creates a really meaningful mail moment for them. So we had about 400 or 500 staff and members of Congress come through. And the past 3 years, every year it's grown. So I think this was our largest event yet. And just a really celebratory moment to be able to talk about the value of mail. Moms are also a very bipartisan issue. People love moms. And so it's a nice way to bring people together to celebrate, because there's a lot of heavy policy and issues that a lot of these staffers and members of Congress are working on every day. And so it's a nice way for us to say thank you to them for the things that they do to support our industry and to support the Postal Service and an affordable, reliable postal service for all. We had cupcakes. It was just a really nice event and something that I know will continue. And we're just trying to think of other ways to connect those dots in a fun and sometimes really meaningful and impactful way.
And it was interesting, like you said, you didn't realize that they didn't know how to actually address an envelope. Again, so much is taken for granted. I'm Gen X, so I'm like, yeah, of course you know how to address an envelope. But I haven't even thought to actually ask that question to those generations younger than me, if they actually know how to do it or not.
I came home and taught my kids the first time I realized that they may not know. And thank you cards are big in our household. So we're trying to pass that on to our kids and to the next generation. But I think everybody has their own touch point. Like our letter carrier is a friend. He's a Cowboys fan. We're Philadelphia Eagles fans. So he leaves us notes in the mail when we're playing each other. I hope my kids grow up with that appreciation for this is part of our community. This is something that maybe, like I said, before I entered this industry, I took for granted. But you just notice the things now. And I hope that the folks on the Hill, when we have events like this, they notice these little things more and then maybe appreciate when they get something in the mail that they really wanted. Or when it doesn't arrive on time, that maybe this is an issue that we need to come together in a bipartisan fashion to solve, because we want the Postal Service to serve for another 250 years, and it's going to look different. Our world has changed, but how can it still keep us connected? And what do we, as the American people, need from the Postal Service? And will it continue as a service, or will we expect them to break even as we do now, which is a challenge for them? So there's still a lot of policy to be figured out, but it's nice to have these celebratory moments to bring folks together and talk about how to address an envelope, the value of mail, and happy Mother's Day.
Yeah. And honestly, it's about reminding people also the impact that these things have. For us, it could just be a card. But when you think about the industries that are behind that, on the envelope side, on the card and the printing side, all the jobs that have gone behind that one small thing.
Yeah.
For us, yes, you might write a message in it, but it has to be designed, it has to be printed. All the processes that have to go and all the people that it touches, really the impact that just one card has for so many people.
It's such an incredible value chain. Think about, yeah, it's coming from sustainable forests for the most part, and the harvesting of those trees, turning them into paper. A lot of paper is recycled in this country, which is great. So there's a great sustainability story to tell.
Mm.
And that's something that our EMA Foundation, we have an Institute for Environmental Studies. We partner with groups like Two Sides and others to be able to tell that great story that when you choose paper, you're choosing to support forests and sustainable forests in this country and families that own a lot of forests in this country. So it's not just big corporations. And then, yeah, when you move down the supply chain, someone's got to think, I want to design a Mother's Day card.
Yeah.
And we need those creatives and we need the folks who, there were some funny cards. My mom is a goat, greatest of all time. There were some really cool pop-up cards. So when I think about innovation, I see that come through in something as simple as a greeting card, but as powerful as the feeling you get when you get it. And yeah, when it's moved through the mail, that it's touched a lot of different hands, maybe some automation, some robots and some machines. But I think taking that for granted is one thing, but being able to then flip the script on, wow, how lucky are we? How fortunate are we that we live in a time when we can deliver a product like this, help folks feel the connection of a Mother's Day greeting card or a thank you card. And just, I think that everything from the sustainability story, the manufacturing impact, the 7.9 million American jobs,
Yeah.
it's an industry on par with the auto industry, the airline industry. So industries that get a lot of attention. And we want some attention too. And we want folks to think about how important this has been in our history and what it looks like in the future. Because with AI and with all the new technology, it's great and a little daunting and maybe scary, but we've got to think when something goes down, like the cloud, it goes dark, where are my things? Where is my 401k, for example? Or how am I going to pay a bill if my phone isn't charged, there's a natural disaster and I can't pay with my phone or my card even. So I think just trying to help folks understand the value that mail, print, the Postal Service delivers every day. And the future is uncertain. So we don't know what it's going to look like, but we need to work together to figure out how do we tell these stories so that they're compelling and that folks want to take action, because we do need support from Congress. We do need support from the American people to understand this network and infrastructure that we need to modernize. There's opportunity to do that. Who's going to pay for it? What are our expectations?
Lots of questions.
Some post offices are very well run, some letter carriers, and the whole middle mile. There's just a lot of room for improvement, I think, in terms of things that we can modernize. So just helping tell those stories and connect the dots for people, I think, is something that I'm very happy and proud to do. But I also want to activate more advocates to do, because the louder we are, the more meaningful and personal it is too. When you're running a business in a community, the economic impact you alone have. 7.9 is a big number, but if you're employing 20 people, that's 20 kitchen tables that you're helping feed families. I think about the holiday celebrations or just the schools that you're having an impact on, and the other things that you're doing in your community, be outside of work even, that your business allows you to do. So the economic impact, the 2 trillion number is a number, but it's so much more powerful when you talk about, here's what I'm doing in my community with my company, as a part of a company. Here's what we do, just helping tell the story, because nobody's going to tell your story, or nobody's going to tell it as well. I could try to tell your story, but it's not going to be.
Yeah, you're going to miss some of those details.
Exactly.
And
so
the
that's
nuances for those stories.
That's where we need those advocates. Call your elected officials or come to Capitol Hill, join an association that's helping tell those stories, because we are so much more powerful together, but we've got to all do our part. And part of that is telling our story and just making sure folks know, here's what we do, here's why it's important. And our foundation has some resources on our website, the EMA Foundation for Paper-Based Communication, envelope.org, an advocacy toolkit, because I think if you're not on Capitol Hill regularly or in the Washington area, it can seem a little daunting. It isn't. It's just about making a phone call, writing a letter. If you're in the area, reaching out to your elected official, or when they're in the district or state, asking them to come see your facility is a great way to help them understand, because they don't know, just like we take a lot for granted, they don't know what they don't know either. And they're not experts in everything, but their staff are really motivated, and they are too, the members of Congress themselves, really interested in solving problems for the most part. So they want to make sure that their constituents are heard and represented, and that the problems that they can solve, and this is one of them, on their list, and that they know who to call if they have questions. Where I see my role, telling the story is great, but activating those advocates, if we can get those 7.9 million Americans to speak up, then watch out.
Yeah. And it's interesting, a lot of the things that we've touched on, it seems like it's an uphill climb. We talk about the misconception of print is dead or it's a dying industry, that mail is a dying industry, that sustainability, a lot of people don't believe that it's true, that by using paper, we're destroying the earth, and they don't understand the industries and really how important and what goes into all of them. How do we continue to have those conversations? How do we get people to understand that using paper is good, that it's actually adding more trees to forests? You can't have a conversation with all those 7 million or billion people. That's just not possible.
Yeah.
But are there ways that we can help to dispel some of those misconceptions that people have about the industries that we are advocating for?
Absolutely. And I think that's our duty. That's what we've all got to commit some time and effort to. And you can start small. It can start within your company. You might have some in-house sustainability experts or someone who's interested in helping your company tell that story. And there's a lot of resources out there. You don't have to reinvent the story or the wheel. Like I said, Two Sides North America does a great job talking about paper. Formerly, the Paper and Packaging Board did a great job as well. And they had a really cool Papertarian campaign. I believe still exists online. So it's just sharing some of these resources digitally, if that's easier, on your LinkedIn or through an email within your company. But I think I see it as starting small. I talk about this stuff at cocktail parties or at the baseball field when my kids are playing Little League. So I think it can start with something as simple as, what do you do? When I tell people what I do, the look on their faces, usually, I didn't know we needed an envelope manufacturer advocacy group. But I think it's just helping them understand and appreciate everything that goes into this industry, because they will then immediately have a connection, right? Somebody knows somebody, or in their family history, somebody comes from print or journalism, something that it's maybe evolved over time, but it's part of our history and, again, part of our modern economy. So I would say just start having conversations. Like, the myths are out there and it's up to us to dispel them, whether it's a sustainability myth or print is dead. You talk to people like, have you been hacked? It's not great. So if all of your information is online, you're very vulnerable. And if you have at least copies of it, paper copies at home, you might be in a better position to be able to recover some of that if you're really,
to prove identity, to all of those things.
So I think I talk about the mailbox is really hard to hack. So if all of your information is online, which it probably is, you're probably susceptible to identity theft and maybe a hack. I've got horror stories, and I've heard horror stories. But if the mailbox is where you're receiving your sensitive financial information or healthcare information, then it would be nearly impossible to access all the information they need to steal your identity from your mailbox. And if they did, that's a federal crime. And you can prosecute. There's means of recovery. If your information's stolen online, there's almost nothing you can do.
In order just to
because a lot of it happens
person.
Overseas.
Yeah.
And so there's even no cyber crime that you can recover from. And so we help educate about that. So the scale and scope of online crime and digital crime is $16 billion in losses in 2024. Mail crime, although it does happen, was 600 million in 2024. So just a huge difference. So I think helping folks appreciate, it might be the sustainability piece. If they're very environmentally focused, helping them understand the value of sustainable forests and what the forest industry and the families that own a lot of that land contribute to the economy and contribute to our planet. And it's a great story. It might be they've been hacked. So just having that personal conversation about, have you been hacked? It's awful. Have you gotten your credit card statements online? You might be able to download it, but are you looking through it? And I, as a millennial, was not before I started this job. I signed up for all my paper-based statements, and I realized the amount of subscription services that we were paying for post-COVID was a lot. We had young kids, so a lot of the Disney Plus and Netflix and apps we signed up for. But what I didn't know is we were paying for Netflix on 2 different cards twice. So I only knew that because I had both printouts in front of me, and I would have never noticed because I don't scroll through the whole statement. Or I would have seen Netflix and thought, yeah, we have Netflix, but I wouldn't have noticed that it's also being paid for on this card. So little things like that, just helping folks appreciate what paper does for you, the tangible effect it may have for you if you aren't a big believer, I think is an easy way to help educate and raise awareness. And yeah, I can't say it's a hit at cocktail parties, but sometimes if you change one heart or mind, then that's a good effort.
And it's funny, I was recently at a museum, and one of the first things I did is I went to the information desk and I asked for a map of the museum. Oh, no, we don't have those. Just scan the QR code. And I'm like, no, I want a printed map. Oh, no, we're very environmentally conscious. And I'm like, I'm actually in the printing industry, and actually printing is actually more environmentally conscious than actually having this on the web. Because we're not talking about the data farms and the server
the
farms,
device.
all the devices and the energy and all of the things. Right now, I even see, I want to say like CBS Sunday Morning was talking about the AI farms and all those data centers that are now popping up, and the increase of electricity to the communities that these AI buildings with all that are housing all the servers are now doing to the communities. It's crazy, but nobody thinks beyond the device in their hand.
No, I think that's a great story to tell too, because we don't think about the device, where it comes from, or where it goes at the end of its useful life. We just use it. And we use them for less and less time now. Like my iPhone is 3 years old and the battery won't stay for the whole day. So its useful life is shorter and shorter. All of those devices don't get recycled the way paper does. Paper has a great recycling rate in this country. So it's not just recyclable, it's highly recycled. We have the infrastructure to reuse and recycle it. Devices, not so much. And those farms, yeah, we're just learning now the impact that's having. So it's not just electricity, it's water, it's noise pollution in the community that it's being housed. So nobody wants those. That's been a really fascinating thing to watch from Capitol Hill, how quickly so many, in a bipartisan fashion, legislators turned against data farms and server farms. Originally, they wanted them in their community because they saw it as a chance for investment, but it's not jobs, it's infrastructure. And then you've got to run a lot of infrastructure. So you're pulling it away from the members, the people in your community, to a data center or a server farm. And then that's having a huge impact on the community that maybe they
It's a
didn't
handful of
appreciate.
jobs for the people that are just watching over security, that are just watching over the servers.
Yeah. So I think that's evolving, I think, but you're right. It's a great story to be able to help people understand at the museum, or if you write a letter afterwards, just to say, I hope you'll reconsider paper maps because of the accessibility that they offer. Not everybody can read on a phone or wants to read on a phone or retains information the same way on a digital device, or forests are sustainable. Choosing paper is part of a circular economy, whereas directing folks just to a device is somewhat limiting and may not be as environmentally friendly as we originally anticipated. So we are working on getting a lot of that data into shareable bits, because I think what we have is a great story. What we need to do better is tell it. And so that's where we're trying to activate our foundation to help folks tell the story, because it's easy to reshare a post or have a really good data point like that scale and scope of financial crime that happens on the web and that happens at a mailbox. So if you want to make a better choice, maybe choose paper, but it's up to you. Choice is important and both have a place. But I think just helping people understand the value that print provides, maybe if they hear it enough times, they say it takes 7 times when you hear something for it to stick.
Yep.
So just keep saying it and become a big paper advocate, a print advocate, an envelope advocate, whatever it is. I think we all have things that we care about. And this is just one thing that, like we've said many times, we've probably taken for granted, but it's a huge industry. It's an economic engine. It really drives commerce when you think about catalogs and the omni-channel. So you may be shopping online, ordering online, but you may have been driven to that website because you got a really nice catalog and you got to sit down and not be inundated with all these other digital alerts and look at something that maybe you really were interested in. So helping folks understand the commerce piece is valuable on Capitol Hill. But I like to say it's all about you. So like your story at the museum, I love that. I also want a paper map. So that's something that I think people can relate to more. And maybe it's not up to the person at the desk to make that choice. But if they are in the next meeting and say, can we just have some paper maps? Because people keep asking for them, then that's a victory, right? Because I think it's just being able to make it accessible. We can have both. There's no good or bad choice. It's what works for you.
I was so frustrated too. I'm like, what do you mean you have no maps?
I know.
So frustrated. But anyway, so as we're wrapping up, my favorite question, and I always end all of my podcasts with is knowing what you know now. So all of the information that we've been talking about for the last half hour. If you were just getting started in envelopes, in printing, what advice would you give yourself at that point?
I think that is a great question. And I would give it to myself even right now, because I think so much has changed from where I started to where I am now that I did not expect. I started working on political campaigns in college. I went to law school. I studied environmental law. So I was always just following things that I was passionate about and that I liked to do. And I ended up at a trade association in Washington, D.C. So the political and the environmental a little bit blended because it was a paint recycling program that this trade association and this industry had started that I was really interested in. And from there, I learned a lot of things I didn't know. So I didn't know what a trade association was. I didn't know that it's competitors who come together and say, we compete. We all manufacture envelopes, or we all make a certain product or service. Bankers or hospital workers or administrators all have representation in Washington, and they should, because there's things that you can't do individually, but you can do so much better together. So I learned the value of trade associations, and now I'm a huge advocate for trade associations and using your voice. And lobbying is not a dirty word. It's something that we should all do. And I think as women, especially, we're not lobbying hard enough for ourselves sometimes and in certain spaces. So we've got to work on that. But back to the advice I would give myself, and I still give it to myself, is just to be curious and be adaptable, because you never know what is going to turn into an opportunity or what you're going to learn in a role that is then going to be a skill you carry for life. And it might help you in your personal life. It might help you in your professional life. It might help you in both. And I think that I always kind of thought career paths were linear, and they are not, or at least mine hasn't been. So my advice to my young self and to myself still is to just be adaptable and stay curious, learn, network, get to know people, because people are the thing that throughout my career have been the thing I've always been passionate about. Working with people, being part of a team, helping people, educating, raising awareness for people and with people and to people. I think just take all the opportunities to mentor, to be mentored. It's a lot of advice, I guess I'm giving all at once. But
No, it's a lot of advice, but it also comes down to, like you said, people, because we do business with people. We don't necessarily do business with companies, especially how do we make the impact? How do we make those relationships? We work with people that we like.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of times it does come down to.
Yeah. And I think people want to help people. So customer relationships are stronger when customers and suppliers get together and aren't just talking shop all the time. So find an opportunity to get to do that in your professional life and certainly in your personal life, because I think both feed one another. I think these skills are transferable. I use them in parenting. I use them at work. I've used them growing up as an oldest sibling. I've used them on sports fields. So I think it's just gathering together your skill set and then finding people that you can use those skills with and who see those skills in you and want to develop those skills. I just think that's the beauty of a career, is you don't really know where it's going. No one knows the future. So just be ready for anything and have fun along the way, because that's it. That's all you get to take with you.
Yeah.
And the connections, the personal people that matter.
Well, Marie, thank you for taking a little bit of time with me today. I really do appreciate it.
This was great. What a fun chat. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, you are very welcome. Thanks again. Thank you for joining us on this journey to celebrate and amplify the voices of women in the printing industry. If you have a story to share or know someone whose journey deserves to be highlighted, we'd love to hear from you. Together, let's continue inspiring and empowering the next generation of leaders. Until next time, keep leaving your imprint. This is Her Imprint. See you soon.